Okay, in this video, we're going to walk through creating a data table and graph using Google, or specifically Google Sheets. So the first thing I'm going to do is I am going to sign into my Google account. So we'll do that very quickly. Okay, so I also need a blank document to start with. So I like to open up Word personally. If you don't have Word and you're doing this at home and you'd like to open up a Google Doc, that's okay also. But open up a blank document because this is where you're going to copy paste your eventual data table and graph, and this is what you're going to turn in. So I'm going to say data table. Actually, I'm going to call it the Google data table. And I'm going to call it the Google graph. Okay, so I'm going to store that there, and I'm just going to minimize that document. All right, so now I'm going to go into, I'll call it the waffle icon, and I'm going to go into Drive, and I'm going to do a new Google Sheet, which is a spreadsheet. And so this is where I'm going to create my data table and graph. This is not what you're turning in. You're going to copy paste your data table and graph into a Word or a blank Google Doc file. And again, the reason for that is in real life, you're usually taking your data table and graph and putting it in a lab report or putting it in a document or an article that's going to be published. And it's not just a raw Excel or Google Sheet file. All right, so the first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to click up here, and since this is going to save automatically to your Google Drive, you might want to give it a name. So I'm going to call it Physics Assignment. All right, and the next thing I need to do then is my goal is to recreate this data table and this graph. One thing that I noticed that's different is this data table, these numbers have 2 decimal places, and this column also has 2 decimal places. Where in the Excel assignment, this column only had 1 decimal place. So be aware of that. All right, so the first thing I need to do is I just need to type this information in my Google Doc or my Google spreadsheet. And so I actually already did that just to speed up a little bit of time. But notice that I did not do any formatting at all. But there it is. Okay, so now it's time to center our data and to add our cell borders. So I'm going to highlight them. I'm going to go over to the alignment icon, but let me show you something for a minute. If I shrink down my window, I don't know how big your window is wherever you are, but look at these 3 dots. These 3 dots tell you that there's more on this menu. And so as I shrink, more things get hidden in those 3 dots, but as I keep stretching it, more and more things become visible to me. So if I click on something and you can't find it, it might be hidden under your 3 dots. So just click on your 3 dots to expand that menu bar. So I can see I have a horizontal alignment, so that's going to center everything. So let's pick center. And right next to it, this one is a vertical alignment, and I'm going to pick in the middle here, okay, to center them in the middle. It looks like it didn't do anything because we didn't adjust our row height yet. So I'm going to do my row height. So by just clicking on 1 through 8, and then I'm going to right click here, and it says resize rows, and I'm going to set it to 24 pixels. So now my vertical alignment did do something. All right, I'm going to click them all again, and this time I'm going to add my borders. And again, your border icon may be hidden under those 3 dots. But here's my border icon, and I'm going to click this one so there's borders around every cell. All right, I like that. And just like before, we should offset our header rows. So I'm going to click the 2 header rows. I'm going to use my bucket, and I'm going to give it a pale color. And then I'm going to click on just the centimeter cubed cell and the gram cell. And I'm going to go back to my border icon. And this time I'm going to go to border style, and I'm going to choose this like bold border, and I'm going to click on the bottom. I want to put that on the bottom. All right, something else I wanted to show you here is the centimeter cubed. So when we were in Excel, we changed the 3 to a superscript, but Google Sheets doesn't have that option. So instead, I use the little caret to show that this is supposed to be a superscript. And I guess there's nothing we can really do about that. So we're just going to have to leave that one. All right, so the next thing is we did our header rows. We can't do anything with the 3. We have to do our decimal places within a column. So you can see all my zeros disappeared when I typed them. So I'm going to highlight this row. But both rows are supposed to have 2 decimal places. So therefore, I can highlight both rows. And these are my decimal place icons. So this is to increase decimal places. So that looks good. And I think I'm in business. All right, I think it's looking pretty sweet. All right, so we're done with our data table, and we're basically just going to copy paste it into Word. So I'm going to highlight everything, copy paste it into your blank document, whether it be a Google Doc or a Word document. So I'm going to paste it. Yeah, that always happens. So sometimes you have to drag on this vertical line here to kind of stretch them out a little bit, make it look a little bit better. All right, but I'm happy with that. Okay, so now we are going to go work on our graph. So I'm going to get my cursor down here ready to go. I think doing the graph in Google Sheets is a little bit more complicated than Excel, or just maybe I'm not as good at it. I don't know. All right, this time I'm going to highlight just the numbers, and I'm going to go to Insert, Chart, because chart is the word they use for graph. So there's a chart. So it takes a second for it to pop up. And notice the chart editor automatically popped up. And chart type. This is where you can change the type of graph that you want to see. So there's obviously all these choices. But we're going to do a scatter chart. And we're going to choose the first one again. And so here's my scatter plot. So there's lots of things under this chart editor if you kind of keep scrolling down there, but I'm just going to kind of get to them by clicking in the rightful spot. So this is the title. So I'm going to click on it, and you'll notice the chart editor moved me to the title. So the title right now is grams versus centimeter cubed. Remember I said if you don't know what to name something, you can call it the Y thing versus the X thing. So that's what they did, but that's bad. So let's go over here to the chart title. And in this box, text box underneath it, let's give it a better title. So I'm going to call it Density of Unknown Substance. Okay. I'm also going to click over here and notice that that moved me to the vertical axis title. And I go underneath that. Here's the text box. So they just have a gram. So how about if I make it mass with grams in parentheses? I think that's better. All right, now I'm going to click on the x-axis, and how about we insert volume before the centimeter cubed, and I'll enter there. All right, that looks pretty good. All right, this one's a little bit tricky to find, but I'm going to click right here, like I'm clicking in this box. And this says horizontal axis. What I don't like about the horizontal axis is I don't like all these 20.00. I wish it was just a 20. So I have to arrow down a ways. So follow with me. Horizontal axis, I'm scrolling. And I'm looking at the very bottom like of the horizontal axis, all the choices that I can do. One of them says number format. So I'm going to click on the drop down arrow, and I'm going to hit none. So watch what happens to my zeros. They all go away. So let's do the same thing over here. I'm going to click on the vertical axis. So I'm in the vertical axis menu, and I'm going to slide down, number format, and I'm going to hit none. So that gets rid of those. Beautiful. All right, let's take a peek at what we have done so far. So we've created our graph, we've added the title and the axis labels. We are now ready to add our trend line, equation of the best fit line, and the correlation coefficient. So it says right click on your graph. So here we go, right click, choose series. All right, so I'm going to choose series. And when we choose series, we would like data labels like put numbers on your point. So I don't want that. I do want the trend line. There's my best fit line. It's linear. That's perfect. I'm going to slide down. So notice label, use equation. There's my equation. It just popped up. And I'm going to click on show correlation coefficient, show R squared. So let me unclick this for a second. Look at this. So it doesn't have the Y. Like it says dot equals mx plus b. So they don't put the Y. I don't know why. And then when I click on the correlation coefficient, it's going to like plop it so close to this. It's going to look like it's in it. Watch. Excuse me. And so it's like, it's kind of like stuck together, but oh well, I can't really change that. So there's my graph. So let's look at how it looks compared to mine. So let's see. I can't get them both on the screen. Let's see if I can. All right. So I have a few more decimal places, but that's actually probably not good to have that many decimal places. I kind of like this one here better. All right, so we're good with this graph. All right, this is the one tricky thing. We cannot just copy paste this into Word, because watch, if I try, I'm going to click it. I'm going to try to copy, and it's not going to work. It didn't work. All right, so this is what you got to do. So you have to click on these three dots, and you have to download as an image. So I'm going to download as an image, and now it's going to save this image to my machine someplace. So let's see, where could I put it? I will put it right here, and I'm going to give it a name. I know you can't see all this on your screen. So I got that. It's under Lexar. Okay, so I got it. So you're going to have to save it to your computer or your Z drive. And then I'm going to go back to my document where I want to put it. And now I have to insert the image. So I'm going to insert a picture, and I'm going to go find wherever I saved it. Right here is my graph, and there it is. All right, but let me show you the benefit of this. Is if I was actually doing a lab report, this would be like my data section. Okay, so data table, and I might have some words here, blah, 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 blah. Whoops, that was kind of bad. Let's do this. Because normally my text would be going all the way across the page. All right, and then I would want to list my data table. When it comes time to do your graph, notice my graph kind of gets lost on the page. So what I did, and you don't necessarily have to do this, is I went up to this format, and I did a picture border, and I chose black. So that kind of put a black outline above around my graph. But if I had text here, now since this is an image, I can click on my graph. I can resize it to make it bigger or smaller. I can also right click. Let me move it up so you can see it better. I can right click and I can do wrap text in front of text, meaning that I now could move it around my page and, kind of put it wherever I want it. And if you were actually doing a lab report, you want these extra controls of being able to move your data table around and be able to move your graph around. And that's why I'm having you go through the extra step of copy pasting and inserting these in a document, because when we get to start doing lab reports, we're going to have to do this. All right, so I hope this can help you complete the assignment in Google Sheets, and if you have any questions, let me know.